Hi, everyone. Let's take a look at poetic meter and, of course, how it relates to Hamilton. Alrighty. Meter is the pattern of stresses and unstresses you see in a line of poetry and how many there are. For instance, a sonnet always has the same pattern, which is ba-bum, 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 ba-ba. In fact, the author chooses words that have the correct stress to make it go ba-bum. For instance, compare. The stress is on the second syllable. We don't say compare, we say compare. So if he puts in compare, he knows it's going to go ba-bum. So it's like that. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? You actually have to read it with the stresses in those places. Summer, the stress is at the beginning. So you pick words that have that pattern in order to put the stresses where you want and make it sound more musical. A metrical foot is usually 2 or 3 beats, stressed and unstressed syllables. We'll look at iambs and trochees and dactyls and anapes bit by bit. All right, so when you do an unstressed, then a stressed, like we did with Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day, that is called an iamb. And so an iamb is 2 syllables. Shall I, that's an iamb. Compare, that's an iamb. Thee to a summer's day, sure. If you have 5 iambs, we call that iambic pentameter. Penta, 5, meter, the measurement here. So I could have iambic tetrameter, 4 iambs. I could have iambic sestameter, 6 iambs, and an iamb is 2 syllables. I could have blank verse, which is iambic pentameter, but it doesn't rhyme. Shakespeare often drifts into blank verse when something really important is happening, or he will drift into iambic pentameter and it'll rhyme. Parting is such sweet sorrow that I shall say goodbye till it be morrow. That I shall say goodbye till it be morrow. You can hear that ba-bum, 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 ba-bum again. That's from Romeo and Juliet. You could also, this website points out, have free verse. Free verse is the way we tend to write poetry nowadays, where we are not paying any attention to rhyme or rhythm, and we probably don't have them. We're just writing pretty lines, words, metaphors, images, and so forth. All right. Another common meter is iambic trimeter, where instead of having 5 iambs, which is 10 syllables long, you would have 3 iambs, which would be 6 syllables long. Okay. And yes, you could take tetrameter or hexameter or dimeter or trimeter and combine it with some other forms that aren't iambs, like anapes, dactyls, and so forth. Trochees, yeah. Lots of different people have used these forms. Some of them are really famous to one person or another person. Paradise Lost uses unrhymed iambic pentameter, which is called blank verse. The study of meter, or checking how many beats there are, is known as prosody. And you can count, of course, whether there are 10 syllables or 8 syllables or so forth, using your fingers if you like. Reading the line out loud helps you see where the stressed beats are. Another option to think about this is quantitative verse, which is how long is the syllable? How long does it take to pronounce it? And of course, authors don't have to keep the meter going the same way for the whole poem, and in modern free verse, they probably wouldn't, But again, Shakespeare and other sonnet writers are really known for keeping this pattern going. Not just Shakespeare, lots of people wrote sonnets for hundreds of years. Petrarch was writing Italian sonnets, which are a little different in form, but they still use iambic pentameter. Milton's sonnets I'm not so familiar with. Elizabeth Barrett Browning wrote lovely sonnets that are also in iambic pentameter. And when we got to the 20th century, we had poets, specifically American poets, saying, you know, I want to write a different kind of poem. I want to write a distinctly American form that's more free verse and get out of these old European patterns. Obviously, I'm only talking about Eurocentric poetry. There's poetry all around the world that does radically different things. But for the meter we're talking about, Eurocentric is a good way to go. All right. We have some different types of meters. I just talked about iambs, unstressed, stressed. Well, we've got a few others here. Trochee, stressed, unstressed, the opposite. Tiger, tiger, burning, bright, in the forests of the night. Stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, unstressed, And once again, you could have trochaic pentameter or tetrameter or whatever. Spondee, that's two stresses in a row. Beat, beat, drums, something like that. An anapest is unstress, unstress. Ba-ba-bum, 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 ba-ba-bum. Dactyl would be stress on stress on. Bum, 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 bum. And all of these, of course, sound quite rhythmic and powerful and fascinating. So, what about Hamilton? Well, one second, I'm switching over to my sharing, of course, and it's taking forever, of course. There we go. All right, well, back in the book, if we do, rhythm. Rhythm in Hamilton. Let's talk about that. Unstress, unstress, anapest. When are these colonies gonna rise up? Rise up, of course, sounds like a spondee. Boom, boom, rise up. But when are these colonies? Sure. Dactylic, stress un, stress un. Maybe we've got an extra syllable or two in there, but it's pretty similar to dactylic. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Mainland sounds more like a spondee. Iambic. Very, very popular and very, very conventional. So who uses the conventional popular English one? King George does. What comes next? You've been freed. And then we get into more anapestic. Do you know how hard it is to lead? We've got that extra syllable. Do you know how hard it is to lead? But aside from an extra syllable being snuck in there, which adds a little to the unconventionality and pushing the edges, it's pretty traditional. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. You know how hard it is to lead. Something else you could do, of course, is when there's a little extra stress that feels like it doesn't perfectly belong in there, on is, for instance, it can kind of needle the person speaking and point out how much this is a thing. And you could put emphasis in different places by having a little surprise, a little break, something that doesn't quite follow the rules. Spondee, stress, stress. Washington enters shouting, "We are outgunned, outmanned, boom, 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 boom." He really shouts these panicky, very stressed literally stressed, moments with boom, boom. Those are spondes. Sure. Trochaic, mainland, came and, stress, unstress, stress, unstress. So that's what you're looking for when I say, what's the rhythm here? What's the syllable pattern? In, of course, our beloved Hamilton. And ready. Back we go. So that was iambs, trochee, iamb, unstressed, stressed, trochee, stressed, unstressed, sponde, stress, stress, anapest, unstress, unstress, dactyl, stress, unstress, un. Yeah. And apparently lots of ads. If we're getting a little weirder, I mean, those were the big five. They really were. Amphibrach is one stressed un stressed un, or Pyrrhic would be un as opposed to boom boom. Yeah. So as we've discussed, is it trimeter with, so it would be 3 of these sets of 2 or 3 of these sets of 3 or whatever it is. Tetrameter, 4 of these sets of whatever. Pentameter, 5 of these sets of whatever. Sure. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house. So you see, if you read it normally, 'twas the night before Christmas when all through the house, some of the words just sound stronger. Christmas, house, night. So those are the stressed ones. Those are just where the stronger sound is. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. Boom, 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 boom. Anapest shows up in limericks and humorous poems like Seuss and Carol, sure. My Last Duchess, and again, although Shakespeare, iambic pentameter. That's my last Duchess painted on the wall. Looking as if she were alive, I call. That piece a wonder now, Fra Paula Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. Worked busily a day, and there she stands would fit better. You notice in line 2, he stops a sentence and then starts another sentence. You can do that. Some authors hate doing that. Shakespeare pretty much always ends his sentence and his line and his thought all together. And that's called end stopped, when the end of the sentence corresponds to the end of the line. But some people absolutely will stop and then start again, which is called enjambment. And both are reasonable options. And in fact, you are supposed to stop, kind of. That's my last Duchess painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now. Fra Pandolf's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. I read to let it fall into the pattern, but I do pause where there's a period because it's a period. Sure. Yeah, Keats, Stevens, Browning, yeah. The Raven. Trochaic tetrameter with occasional not following the pattern. Again, lots of authors will not follow the pattern in places. Why? Because it's hard and they're sloppy. That doesn't tend to be the main reason, or at least when we're doing literary analysis, that doesn't tend to be our answer to why somebody's doing it. Why do they do it? Well, as I said, sometimes it puts emphasis in the place you want emphasis. Sometimes it makes you pause a little. Sometimes it wakes you up a little if we break the pattern or make something look extra important. These are all options. So what was a trochee? Stressed, unstressed. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah. Bum, 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 bum. Stressed, unstressed. Over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. Forgotten lore. Bum, 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 bum. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this, and nothing more. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Just the stresses are on the first one. Weak gets a stress, and does not, and doesn't usually, and it doesn't usually, the little softer words. Weary, it's on this first half of weary, clearly. Yeah. Edgar Allan Poe, who's very creepy. By the way, The Simpsons did a wonderful take on the Raven in their first Halloween special, in important news. The charge of Light Brigade is in dactyls. Stressed stressed half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death. Bum, 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 bum. Half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death. When you're doing this right, of course, it should sound like a song. It should sound recited. Sure. Here they're pointing out that this doesn't sound like natural speech. Well, to a lot of us, none of this sounds like natural speech, but it is art, however artificial. I wandered lonely as a cloud. Iambic tetrameter. Tetra, 4. 4 iambs. So 8 syllables. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. And of course, you notice little cheats like or, which is 1 syllable, instead of over, which is 2 syllables, and would mess up his line. Sure. Creates an even rhythm, mimicking the swaying of the breeze and the movement of the daffodils. And that goes back to that, okay, I found the poetic meter. I declare that I wandered lonely as a cloud is iambic tetrameter. Good for me. Well, what do I do with that information? Well, of course, I could say that it's very regular and peaceful and gentle and musical, but I could also, if I'm doing more analysis and digging deeper, say that the evenness of this poem sounds like the swaying of the breeze and the movement of the daffodils. Sounds all flowy. Whereas half a league, half a league, half a league onward, all in the valley of death, sounds to me like a chant. Bum, 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 bum. It sounds like pushing. We have to go just a bit further, which, of course, enhances that meaning of the poem. Trochaic can be a little unsettling because it's calling to action. It's not letting you sleep. It's bum, 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 bum. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary. Feels kind of like we're poking somebody, you know, even though it's talking about being sleepy, it's kind of pushing wakefulness with the meter. And in fact, this is going to be an unsettling, creepy poem where Raven shows up, won't leave this guy alone, and it's a reminder of his dead wife. Creepy, creepy, creepy. So, yeah, we're evoking the creepiness with the choice of trochaic tetrameter. And likewise, having some occasional lapses, some occasional moments that don't fit, add to the unsettling nature here. So that would be the next step of doing analysis once you have this. So what is the meter? It's saying it's iambic pentameter or whatever it is we've got. How do you figure this out? You could count the syllables in the line to work out how many syllables we have in the first place. You could check which ones the important syllables, the ones that are standing out, wandered. Obviously, wan is hitting. Golden. Daffodils. Daff and dills are getting the stress, right? And gold, but not N and not O. Yeah. Beside the lake, beneath the trees. Well, there you can really see that the thes are the soft syllables, and beside and beneath and lake and trees are getting the emphasis. If you can't tell in a line, you could try a line where it's more obvious, and it might help you solve it better. Poets can speed up their poems or slow them down by doing these syllable patterns. They want their poems to follow a format. It's only a sonnet if it's in iambic pentameter. There are some other forms where it's only this form if you're using this kind of meter, limericks. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-bum. If it's not doing that, it's not a limerick. Sure. We discussed free verse, which has no pattern, or no pattern related to rhyme and rhythm. Blank verse, where it doesn't rhyme, but it has the rhythm. Anapest, iambic, dactylic, spondaic. Sure. Once again, anapest is unstress. Iambic pentameter is unstress, 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 unstress. 5 of those. Dactylic meter is stress, unstress, un. And spondee is outgunned, outmanned. Sure. To look at this on another website, just to fully absorb this. A line is, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? And then Shakespeare hit enter. Okay, he didn't. He was using a pen. But where the poet hit enter, that's considered one line. And then in it, however many feet it's got. This whole thing we've been doing is called scansion, or that other fancy term we saw earlier. What is the scansion here? What kind of scansion is going on? A foot is one iamb, one trochee, one dactyl, hence whatever meter. The meter is what kind of foot is this and how many feet do we have? There's our friends iamb, trochee, spondee, pyrrhic, un, anapest, dactyl. And as we've said, you can do monometer, 1, di, 2, trimeter, 3, tetrameter, 4, pentameter, 5, hexameter, 6. I've also seen sexameter. Heptameter, 7, octameter, 8, nonometer, 9. So nonometer would be an 18-syllable line. That's long. We were just messing with a lot of 10-syllable lines and roundabout there. Probably not. 4 and 5 times 2 or 3 beats is pretty traditional. And here they are combining these words, of course, to do anapestic dimeter or spondaic monometer. I guess spondaic monometer would be a spondee, and then you hit enter, then a new spondee on the next line, like outgunned. Next line, outmanned. Yeah. Trochaic, tetrameter, etc. A stanza is a clump of lines that go together, basically a paragraph in poetry. Might be 4 lines, but it doesn't have to be. A paragraph could be 3 lines, and then quite often the author will hit enter. A couplet is 2 lines that go together and generally rhyme. A tercet is 3 lines that go together and rhyme. A quatrain is 4 lines. They don't have to rhyme. It could be like A, B, or something. Or A, B, C, B. Roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. That's a quatrain, but only 2 of those rhymed. Cinquain, 5 lines. Sestet, 6 lines. Octave, 8 lines. Rhyming, as we looked at last time, is when the ends of the lines have the same sound. We looked at masculine rhyme, which is 1 syllable, and feminine rhyme, which is multi-syllables, banding and landing. Internal rhyme, where it's inside the line. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. That last rapping is at the beginning of a line, but it rhymes with these other words, so we call it internal rhyme, and of course it helps link those 2 lines together, doesn't it? End rhyme. Rhymes at the end of the line, as opposed to internal rhyme. And blank verse is not rhyming. So here I've got some lyrics for us, and let's take a look. You'll be back, soon you'll see, you'll remember you belong to me. Where the stress is? Remember. Where's the stress? It's on mem. So what does this look like? It looks like unstress, unstress. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. We've got that bum, 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 bum. And we've also got the, you'll remember that I served you well. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll bum, 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 bum. Yeah. Let me start again. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. Unstress, unstress. Sure. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. Sure. And that's anapests. Different song. British Admiral Howe's got troops on the water. 32,000 troops in New York Harbor. 32,000 troops in New York Harbor. It's pretty close to trochaic where it's stress on, stress on, stress on, stress on, which is in fact a call to attention, adding, in fact, extra stress here. British Admiral Howe's got troops on the water. All right. On the is a little break with that. But again, often these aren't perfect. Calling so much attention to what's going on over and over. So it's a call to action as it repeats over and over and over, making it all extra stressful. Sorry, I seem to be sharing the wrong screen. Let me try that again. Right. British Admiral Howe's got troops on the water. 32,000 troops in New York Harbor. Stressed on is trochaic. And back up here, we've got you'll be back. Soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. Yeah. All righty. Let's look at a different one. As a kid in the Caribbean, I wished for a war. I knew that I was poor. I knew it was the only way to rise up. Well, obviously, rise up is stress, our sponde. What did we have here? As a kid in the Caribbean, I wished for a war. Ba-ba-bum, 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 ba-ba-bum. More of those anapaests. So as you look and see what's going on here and which syllables stand out, you can start to mark these and be able to label them. What is a deeper meaning here? Well, he's making a rhythm. I mean, it sounds like a rhythm. It sounds like a rap. And he's stressing the important bits that are standing out. Kid, Caribbean, in contrast with wished for a war. And then breaking out of this rhythm with the spondes of rise up really stands out here, huh? So that's what we're trying to do. Figure these out, label them, mark up the syllables. Lots of people put kind of a U over an unstressed syllable and a dash over a stressed syllable. So we label them, we figure out what's going on, and then we ask the question, does this have deeper meaning? Is this supporting the information we're getting? And that's what we're trying to do here. So, of course, take a Hamilton song or two, try marking them up, and see what you can figure out. Good luck.